We put out articles every single day about the biggest risers and fallers from the Senior Bowl, mainly focusing on the risers. Who, Tony, did you see raise their draft stock the most coming out of the Senior Bowl?
Well, I'd say the most would have to be Quinn Meinerz, who I've talked about all week in radio interviews around the nation. I mean, the offensive lineman from Wisconsin-Whitewater, a guy who basically did what a small school guy has to do when he goes to the Senior Bowl. Not only prove that you belong, but dominate. And that's what Quinn Meinerz of Wisconsin-Whitewater did on the offensive line every day that he practiced. Didn't play in the game because he had a hand injury, but really from the word go, you could tell that this guy was there to compete. And he was just devastating, dominating some of the best players there. In edge rush drills, he shut down Patrick Jones. He handled Odighizuwa of UCLA on multiple occasions. Taquan Graham, the quick, athletic defensive tackle from Texas, annihilated him the last day of practice. I mean, one after another, he did it offensive guard. He did it offensive center. He took some reps at tackle, like I said, with Patrick Jones, shut him down. I mean, if you follow us last week, I hearkened back to Ali Marpet, who's going to be playing in the Super Bowl this weekend for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the performance that he had when he was at the Senior Bowl, when he was dominating players like Danny Shelton, who was a first-round pick. It was a similar sort of situation with Quinn Meinerz. He's a different sort of offensive lineman to Ali Marpet. Ali Marpet is more of your mobile zone blocking lineman, where Quinn Meinerz is more of your power gap, punching him out, small area blocker, more scheme specific. It was a terrific performance every day by Quinn Meinerz, as it was for Mac Jones. I thought Mac Jones had a real special week. You know, going into the week, I was not a big Mac Jones guy. But going into the week, there were a lot of people like myself who thought that Mac Jones was the beneficiary of all that great talent around him at Alabama. But Mac Jones proved that basically he was a major part of it. He was the guy that basically kept it together, that made that offensive engine in Alabama run, because that's what he did in 3 days of practice at the Senior Bowl. I mean, if you read the reports day after day, his accuracy, his pass placement, most impressively, his timing with receivers that basically were foreigners to him. They were complete strangers to him until they got on the field on Tuesday. These are guys he's never practiced with before, and click. I mean, just did not miss a beat. I think I saw one bad pass the last day of practice, but he was a little bit hurt because he did hurt his ankle during a quarterback scramble. You could tell that this cat is just in control of the situation. Just real command. The players look up to him, and the other players on the offense look to him to lead the offense. Very impressed with Mac Jones. Wayne Eskridge, the receiver from Western Michigan, had a real big week, although he only practiced, I should say big week. He practiced for 2 days, and he was good both days that he practiced. I thought that Richie Grant was another guy, the safety from Central Florida, answered a lot of questions that people had about his ball skills. We know he's a tough run defender. We know he's good in the box, but you know what? He was also good in reverse. He was also good sideline to sideline. I believe he had 3 picks the last 2 days of practice. The final day he had 2 picks, not just in the middle of the field, not just between the hashes. He had a terrific pick in red zone drills out on the sideline. So I think Richie Grant was another guy who really helped himself.
Before we move on to our next segment, Tony, I'm glad you brought up Mac Jones. In your mailbag that we released earlier today on ProFootballNetwork.com, you have a bunch of information from around the NFL draft, but you specifically mentioned Mac Jones. You had a few questions about him, and you provided a few answers. So basically, what you just said on the money all week, timing with his pass catchers, with basically strangers who we met that week, was impeccable. And then now you think that Jones ends up in the first round and that you think he deserves to be in the first round. Mentioned the bottom of the first round, right? We know that teams overvalue quarterbacks in the NFL draft. You just look to guys like Christian Ponder, J.P. Lossman, and this going obviously years back, Mitchell Trubisky and so forth. That's going to be 4 quarterbacks in the first round. You're going to have Trevor Lawrence, you're going to have Justin Fields, Zach Wilson in one of those orders, and then you're going to have Mac Jones.
5 quarterbacks, Trey Lance.
I forgot about Trey Lance, had 1 game this past season. That's incredible, right? I mean, You think about these number of quarterbacks that are going to be going. It's a quarterback-driven league. We all know that. Do you think this has the potential? I mean, what do you think about the potential of this quarterback class?
Well, the potential of this quarterback class is going to be driven by Trevor Lawrence, who's going to be I think, can be one of the great quarterback prospects to come out of the draft in a long, long time. Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, maybe John Elway. So it's going to be driven by him. I think after that, there is a fall-off, but the Zach Wilsons, Justin Fields, they also have a great amount of upside. And I think with the right coaching, they will be very good quarterbacks at the next level. I think Trey Lance has tremendous upside, but Trey Lance also has a bit of downside risk. Like you said, only played one game this year at North Dakota State, has only started one season on a small school level. And as we've seen, you mentioned Mitch Trubisky, although Mitch seemed to maybe have turned it around, but you look at the Mark Sanchez, you look at the Dwayne Haskins. I mean, a lot of these college quarterbacks that have only started 1 year on the college level, then turn pro, they don't have longevity, they don't have a lot of success. That's a situation with Trey Lance. It's not his fault because North Dakota State only scheduled one game in 2020 due to COVID, but that is the risk with Trey Lance. You may have to sit him for a year. I really think that you could make the argument and you can make the case that after Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones is the most NFL-ready quarterback in this draft. Doesn't mean he's going to be the best quarterback after Trevor Lawrence. It means that he's the guy that you could plug in the soonest and not have a ton of interceptions like you may have with Justin Fields or Trey Lance. Not have as many bumps in the road as you may have with Zach Wilson. I do think that Zach Wilson and Justin Fields will be much better down the road, as will Trevor Lawrence. But I think that Mac Jones is sort of, you get what you see. He doesn't have the great upside compared to the Trey Lance or the Justin Fields, but he doesn't have that much downside risk. And I agree with you. I mean, 5 quarterbacks are a lot in round 1. But when I thought about it, coming on the flight home from Mobile, I really thought that Mac Jones' performance at the Senior Bowl reminded me of Phillip Rivers when he was there way back in whatever year Phillip Rivers did, 2001. I forget the year that he was there, in the sense that he delivered much more than expected. And I don't think that Mac Jones is going to be an early first-round pick the way Phillip Rivers was, but he gave scouts a lot to think of because you thought maybe Mac Jones was here, and then after the Senior Bowl, the way he played, he was way up here. And the one thing we know about the Senior Bowl, or one thing that I know about the Senior Bowl, is it's a kingmaker at several positions, the top position being quarterback. The Donovan McNabbs of the world, not Derek Carr, the David Carrs of the world, the Carson Palmers of the world, the Carson Wentzes of the world, the Phillip Rivers of the world. For better or worse, these guys went to the Senior Bowl, knocked it out of the park, and just watched their draft stock skyrocket. And I think to a lesser extent, that's what happened with Mac Jones, but it was still a significant bump in his draft stock.